Hello and welcome. I'm Ali Mustafa coming to you with a special edition of Strait Talk from Berlin on the upcoming elections in Turkey. It's a vote that could be a deciding factor in who leads Turkey for the next 5 years under a new presidential system. Nearly 5% of the Turkish electorate calls Europe home, but their participation in the voting process hasn't always been smooth. Some parts of European society have questioned where the loyalty of overseas Turks lies, forcing many to question their own identity. A city once divided by a wall is now a battleground for competing visions. Disagreements play out on the streets of Berlin between the far-right Alternative for Deutschland and the so-called Antifa or anti-fascists. Counter-AfD protesters call out, shout out, fascist, Nazi propaganda. They're against these people who say they're marching for women's rights today in support of what they say are oppressed migrant women.
Verpisst euch! Verpisst euch hier!
The AfD says it is against illegal migrants from Syria and elsewhere who they claim are rapists and killers. But the group has been accused of racism, Islamophobia, and being a platform for white nationalists. Now the AfD is trying to polish its image and rebrand itself with the help of people like Leyla Bilge. She's a darling of the far right and the type of migrant the AfD says it wants in Germany. At home, Leyla's Turkish-Kurdish roots reflect in her hospitality. But she adamantly defends her right to stand up for Germany without being called a traitor.
You don't have to be German to love this country and honor it. It is very important to know where you're coming from, that you know your traditions, culture, and mentality. That is a beautiful thing.
Leyla was 6 years old when her family moved to Germany from Diyarbakir in Turkey. She says her parents forced her to marry at 18, an experience that left her traumatized. Later, she left her religion of birth, Islam, and converted to Catholicism.
I fought with myself a lot about what's wrong and what's right, who and what I am, actually. You grew up in two different traditions, in two different worlds, the German world on one hand and the Turkish-Kurdish world on the other, and you sit right there in between, and that has been complicated in the past and still is.
Do you think people would accuse you of turning your back against your own people, your own culture, your own color, for the sake of an ideal that doesn't belong to you?
I think it is more my own community, because these things usually get you more instead of when a racist is saying stuff about me. When a racist is doing that, it's just passing by me. I don't care. The Kurdish community has accused me a lot of times of betraying them.
To the AfD, Leyla is a migrant success story, but for others, she is an opportunist. Hakan, a former journalist turned politician with the Left Party, says Bilge is a tool in the hands of the AfD.
When we look at the campaign of AfD, we saw that AfD is the enemy of foreigners, is a party that doesn't approach different religions positively, that excludes Muslims in society, that defends the idea that Muslims don't belong to Germany. So for a party like this to address different parts of the society, they need foreigners. I think they need people like Leyla Bilge to get votes from different parts of the society and to portray themselves as non-xenophobic.
As debate rages inside the Turkish community over loyalty and identity, a divisive but crucial voting process is underway across Germany and Europe. High security welcomes voters at the Turkish consulate in Berlin. Inside, they are handed two ballots, one for Turkey's presidential election, the other for parliamentary polls. This is one of 13 polling stations set up across Germany. Almost half of the 30 polling stations set up across Europe. Now, Germany is important because 3 million German Turks live here, and in elections where 5% of the vote will be from outside of Turkey, votes here can make a big difference. Turkey's ambassador to Berlin, Ali Kemal Aydın, says outside votes are a critical part of the democratic process in Turkey, and European states need to take a neutral approach.
As you know, last year German authorities limited non-EU countries to hold rallies in Germany 3 months before the elections. We hope that, as German counterparts said, these limitations are applied to all parties, but we saw that there is a difference in practice.
The debate around Turkish political rallies in Europe has led to questions over freedom of expression and brought into question the loyalty of Turks in Germany.
I'm a person with two citizenship. I'm both Turkish and German. You can't divide a person.
We're helping both the Turkish and German economies. And although outsiders think differently, we are not what they think we are, but we still see this offensive discourse.
The politicization of the Turkish community and pressure to prove loyalty to Germany is a cause for concern for Ruprecht Polenz. The former Secretary General of Germany's ruling Christian Democrat says Germany's worsening relations with Turkey have a direct impact on the Turkish community.
The bilateral relationship between Germany and Turkey are for Germany the most important ones with regard to foreign policy, due to so many people of Turkish origin living in our country. And obviously, if the relationship between Germany and Turkey is close and good, this helps for the Turkish people with Turkish origin living in Germany to integrate, to feel well, to feel accepted, and so on and so forth. If the relationship worsens, people feel torn apart or feel pushed in a way on the other side of the polarization.
The Turkish community in Europe finds itself caught between questions of identity, integration, and loyalty. It's a debate closely followed by Josef. He heads the European Council of Foreign Relations and says a lot of work is still needed to reconcile differences not just between Germans and Turks, but also between their countries of origin.
You always have to bear in mind that all actions on the foreign policy front necessarily have a domestic side to it. We tend to sometimes forget that.
It's become quite politicized, the issue of the Turkish elections here in Germany and across Europe, with a ban on political rallies.
Well, you know, this is an after effect of the last election that happened, and of the very apparent to the German policymakers idea of the government to use its means and abilities, also its visibility, to campaign for its own party, which of course is done in most democracies.
We're having two different discussions which are conflating or intersecting somewhere. One is at the macro level between states, Germany and Turkey, personalities, issues, EU accession, all of that. Another is internal debate within Germany of what it means to be a Turk in Germany or a German Turk.
Exactly. Now that's the issue, and these two sometimes enter into a sort of unholy relationship because they prevent political actors from actually following their core business, which is focusing on the longer term interests of their country. Instead, they are driven by sort of the emotions of the moment. Now, I think it's unavoidable. But it's also manageable. You know, probably among European countries, outside of Turkey's immediate neighborhood, probably the relationship between Germany and Turkey is the strongest. Also has the most bonds outside of politics.
Josef, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Now, overseas Turks will be a crucial voting bloc in choosing the next president of the Turkish Republic. But the voting in Europe is taking place amid a rising tide of Islamophobia, as Can Hasasu explains.
It's still fairly early in the morning in Vienna. But the Austrian Chancellor fronts the media alongside his ministers from the far-right coalition to give news of a crackdown.
We want to announce today a decision by the Culture Ministry to ban 7 mosques. It means the dissolution of the Mosque of the Grey Wolves and the dissolution of the Arabic cultural community, which runs a total of 6 mosques. Further, there will be an expulsion of several imams on the ground of violations against the law on foreign financing.
The Turkish Islamic Association, or ATIP, represents 40 Turkish imams working in mosques all around Austria. It says the decision doesn't hold up.
Our religious officials did not begin their work in Austria just yesterday. They have been working in Austria for 30 or 40 years. We did all our previous works in coordination with the ministry and other officials.
The announcement has also drawn reactions from Austria's Muslim community. They accuse the government of being insensitive, given the timing.
Such decisions should be made with more sensibility because the Muslims notice that immediately. It's our holy day, and now the government closes our mosques, regardless of whether the government is right or wrong. That I will not discuss, but the timing is problematic.
Europe's largest Turkish community is just across the border in Germany. We met the chairman of the Islamic Council of Germany at Berlin's Mevlana Mosque. The mosque is still under restoration following an arson attack in 2014. Burhan Keskin says since then things have gotten even worse, and Germany is no longer the country it once was.
The interesting point is that we now hear from leftist parties the things we used to hear from the right wing. We're coming under more attacks. There were around 1,000 attacks on Muslims in 2017 alone, and it's a trend that continues in 2018.
And it's not just buildings that have come under attack. Women with headscarves or people with foreign appearances have become targets of harassment and physical abuse. In 2012, Burak Bektaş, a young German of Turkish descent, was shot dead while waiting for a bus. The unsolved murder is classified as a hate crime, and there is now a monument standing meters away from the crime scene. Human rights activist İlker Duyar works closely with the German authorities to prevent similar incidents, but he says even he doesn't feel safe.
Aside from the death of Burak Bektaş, whose monument we are standing in front of, we're talking about 158 deaths. The investigation is still ongoing.
With the rise of far right, increasing xenophobia and Islamophobia, Turks from Austria to Germany say they are fast losing faith in European politicians. Many of them will now vote in Turkey's June presidential elections, and their choice may lie with who they believe will better defend their rights in Europe. Can Asasu, Strait Talk, Berlin.
To better understand the fears of the Turkish community, I spoke to Beatrix von Starch, a prominent member of the Alternative for Germany party, or AfD. Her group, which is now Germany's third largest, is accused of being anti-Islam and racist.
We say if you want to be German, you have to integrate into our German society, and then in the very end you get the German passport. And if you're favoring Islamic country, this is okay. We don't have a problem with that, but that does not work within our German borders.
What would you say to criticism that the AfD is Islamophobic, is racist, is anti-Syrians, anti-Arabs?
No, we're in favor of religious freedom, of course. But what we say, and we've got one specific criticism against the Islam, what we say is that Islam in its most interpretations is claiming political power.
Not necessarily. There are millions of people in this country that practice their religion, but also subscribe to the German constitution, apply or go about with their laws of Germany. So what's missing here?
it's missing that still people who are living in Germany support the idea, Turkish people or Islam people, Muslims, support the idea that Sharia is above our law.
But that is your interpretation of it.
No, this is just polls. This is just numbers. Public
do
polls.
you think it's a slippery slope to generalize?
It's just
3
numbers.
million, or the intentions and motivations of 3 million Germans by saying, you know what, you all think alike and we don't trust you.
No, I don't say everyone is thinking like that, but we've got several polls showing that the support of Sharia law within the Muslim society, Islamic society in Germany or in whole of Europe is very strong. It's very strong. It's not all of them, but it's in between 30 and 60% supporting the idea that Sharia law is above our law, that Islam should rule the society and the civil law and the punishing law and all of that.
But Beatrix,
and this does
you
not go
realize
together.
the criticism of that. A lot of people would say this is dog whistling, that you are insinuating things which might not be true by taking selective facts and then portraying that as the collective belief of a people who might subscribe to it or not.
No, it's just it were polls. People were asked, what do you say? Is the Sharia law above the public law, or it's the common public law? What do you accept? And they always said it's Sharia law is above the law. Islam law is for us more important than the society's bills of law and all of the rest. So this is not. I'm not making off something.
Let's turn our attention to German Turks. You've spoken about them having to have one passport, prove their loyalty. We saw recently with Mesut Özil quite a bit of controversy. German football player, one of the football stars, having a picture taken with the Turkish President Erdogan. What can German Turks or Germans of Turkish origin do to prove their loyalty?
I would say it's very easy not to stand up with President Erdogan and call President Erdogan my president. I think this is a very strong symbol and it's very easy, and now we can see that President Erdogan is their president. They are supporting him in his election campaign.
They came out and said that he is the president of the origin of our parents.
No, they said no, this is not what they said.
And then he said that we are German citizens. He also met with the German president.
This is not what they said. They said, you're my president. And they showed it, and they said it, and they wrote it on the T-shirt.
Yeah, but Beatrix, you do realize when people are forced to prove their loyalty or prove where they stand with a passport, with symbols, this country suffered quite a bit in having people to prove who they are. Do you think it's time to change course or change the debate, make it more inclusive?
No, I think it's very simple to integrate into our society and to show your loyalty.
Without proving your loyalty?
Yeah,
Why does everyone have to prove their loyalty to subscribe to the ideas of a country?
Well, what they proved is that they are not loyal. This is what they proved.
All right. Thank you so much, Beatrix. The question of dual identities and the pressure to choose one isn't unique to Germany. Right across the border in the Netherlands, a sizable Turkish community says it is also having to prove its loyalty. Ömer Kaplan tells us about what some Dutch Turks say is an effort to reconcile their often divergent identities.
It's being called the gateway to the world, with waterways, rails and roads leading to all directions. And with almost half of Rotterdam's residents of non-Dutch origin, it also brings together people from different parts of the world. One of the largest ethnic groups here are the Dutch Turks. Abdurrahman Sari's parents migrated here in the 1970s for work, and he says while his parents could not call the Netherlands home, he has managed to integrate.
Turkey is my mother and the Netherlands is my father. Why do I have to choose between them? I love them both. We are automatically influenced by the sociologically influenced by the political relationships between Turkey and the Netherlands. It's difficult as a Turkish-Dutch person here in the Netherlands because of the abnormal relationship between Turkey and the Netherlands.
Turkey's general election is a few weeks away, and more than 3 million Turkish expats will cast their vote. One of them is Kaan Yurtkap, He's studying law and wants to move to Turkey after graduating. Unlike Abdurrahman, he says his only homeland is Turkey.
I'm going to vote for the elections. It's my first time. I'm excited. I finally got my own chance to vote for my own political party. Actually, if I'm going to be honest with you, I like Turkey more and more than every other country that ever exists. Here in the Netherlands, when I do everything, I really don't like it here. The weather, everything.
Others, like Fidalia, believe what's important isn't where you're from, but where you live.
I feel more part of the Netherlands than I feel a part of Turkey. I'm Turkish, but I live in the Netherlands and I don't want to live in Turkey. I have friends that are really involved with Turkey and the politics, but I'm not like them.
But a large portion of Turkish expats are paying attention to Turkish politics. Around 250,000 Dutch Turks are eligible to vote in the upcoming elections in Turkey. Many of them have strong ties to their country of origin, but often criticized for not being as engaged in Dutch politics. To understand more about the concept of loyalty, I went to speak with Turkish Dutch MP Tunahan Kuzu. His loyalty was questioned in the Dutch parliament.
Hier moet je Nederlander zijn en alleen Nederlander zijn. Ik wil geen Turken, Marokkanen of Zweden in dit huis.
Voorzitter, in dit land bepaalt Geert Wilders niet wie Nederlander is en wie niet. In dit land bepaalt onze grondwet wie Nederlander is en wie niet. En een dubbele nationaliteit zegt helemaal niets over iemands loyaliteit.
Tunahan says dual nationals should take a more active role in Dutch politics.
I always say Turks should be interested in Dutch politics as well. Actually, they should be more interested in the politics because we live in this country and the politics in Holland affect our daily lives. Our youth are looking for jobs in this country. Our children go to school here. As we live here, we should be more interested in the politics of this country to protect our rights.
Lily Sprangers has been researching the Turkish diaspora in the Netherlands for years, especially the concept of loyalty.
Many people, also many Dutch Turkish people, think that the interest in the priority should be in the country that you live and not in the country that you actually come from. But it adds to the already existing doubt that many Turkish people are more loyal to Erdogan and his party than any of the Dutch parties.
The Netherlands has banned Turkey's political parties from campaigning on its home soil. But Turkish expats will still follow the elections, in a land some of them feel is closer to home. Ömer Kablan, Strait Talk.
Turks in Europe for decades have searched for arenas to preserve their culture and identity while integrating in their adopted homelands. They found it on the football field. It gave German Turks inspiration through symbols like Mesut Özil, but now even these symbols have been forced to choose between their Turkish and German identities. A grinding game of football between two of Berlin's top regional teams. Hilalspor makes a desperate attempt to secure the ball, but with time running out, it isn't enough to stop Turkiyemspor from qualifying to the second round, despite this game ending in a draw. The story of football is central to the experience of Turks in Germany. It has provided a level playing field for economic migrants from Turkey to integrate into German society, but also to excel off the pitch. It's the story of people like Adnan Tuç. The mechanical engineer is the owner of Hilalspor. He says his success lies in cherishing both German and Turkish identities.
I am here and in Turkey. I have two hearts, one for Germany and the other for Turkey.
While Adnan says his base is in both Germany and Turkey, others have been forced to choose between the two. Mesut Özil, one of Germany's and Arsenal's top players, recently courted controversy over a picture with Turkish President Erdogan. Özil and his German teammate İlkay Gündoğan were accused of betraying their German roots.
If you're a successful Turk like Özal and Gündoğan, you're considered German. But German society starts insulting you when you do something as a Turk, calling you Turkish.
Sports, identity and politics in European society has been central to the integration debate around Turks in Germany. Despite the controversy surrounding German players of Turkish origin, Mehmet Bey, a board member of the Berlin Football Federation, says soccer has been essential for integration.
I think it is very important. I am at charge in many of the boards of German Football Federation at the same time. We are making some works on homophobia and integration, and I tell continuously that our teams, Turkspor, Hilalspor, embrace Turkish people who migrated to Germany. These teams led up to them.
And that's all for this special edition of Strait Talk from Berlin. Next week, we'll be taking you to Istanbul to see how the election process is unfolding there. If you've got any comments or suggestions, do share them with us on Twitter with the hashtag Strait Talk. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Until next time, take care and goodbye.